Hello subscribers! I did not expect to be doing another anime review so soon, but I had relatively recently just saw Made in Abyss, and I had to make a video about it, because it was just so good. So let's just start with the synopsis. The Abyss, a gaping chasm stretching down into the depths of the earth, filled with mysterious creatures and relics from a time long past. How did it come to be? What lies at the bottom? Countless brave individuals, known as divers, have sought to solve these mysteries of the abyss, fearlessly descending into its darkest realms. The best and bravest of these divers, the White Whistles, are hailed as legends by those who remain on the surface. Riko, daughter of the missing White Whistle, Liza the Annihilator, aspires to become like her mother and explore the furthest reaches of the abyss. However, just a novice Red Whistle herself, she is only permitted to roam its most upper layer. Even so, Riko has a chance encounter with a mysterious robot with the appearance of an ordinary young boy. She comes to name him Reg, and he has no recollection of the events preceding his discovery. Certain that the technology to create Reg must come from deep within the abyss, the two decide to venture forth into the chasm to recover his memories and see the bottom of the great pit with their own eyes. However, they know not of the harsh reality that is the true existence of the abyss. That is probably the best synopsis of an anime I've read on this channel so far. Very accurate, and the only thing I'd say it's missing, which doesn't need, is an explanation of the curse of the abyss. You can only descend down. If you descend up, which each descending layer, you have a different symptom.
When cave raiding in the abyss, it's the return that presents a problem. The deeper you go, the greater the physical toll becomes whenever you try to head back home. At the first depth, you experience mild dizziness. The second layer, nausea, headaches, and numbness of the extremities. Jump to the fourth layer, intense pain and bleeding throughout the body. The sixth layer and below, you start to experience the loss of your humanity, or even death. And so, this phenomenon, which is totally unavoidable for any human cave raider, is known to us as the Curse of the Abyss.
If you try to ascend from the first layer, you get headaches and dizziness. If you try to ascend from the second layer, you get nausea and vomiting. Third layer is hallucinations, very, very real hallucinations. Fourth layer is bleeding from every orifice. Fifth layer is a complete loss of all sensory information, like absolutely complete. You will lose yourself with that lack of sensory input. No sense of touch, no sense of balance, sight, sound, taste, anything. And then that was the fifth layer, and then the sixth layer is death or changing, completely losing your humanity and becoming a hollow. And they haven't mentioned the seventh layer in the 2 seasons, but I'm sure there is a 7th layer, but they haven't got that far yet. So this anime is still ongoing. I cannot wait for season 3. But genres include adventure, drama, fantasy, horror, mystery, school, sci-fi, seinen, which seinen is one step above shonen, so it's a young adult. And that all seems very accurate. So all that is out right now is season 1, of course, which is just Made in Abyss. Then Dawn of the Deep Soul, which is the movie, but also a direct sequel. It is basically season 2. You have to watch it. You can't go from season 1 straight to season 2. Otherwise you will be missing a lot of key information, which is only found in the movie. And then these other 2 movies, which are really just the first season split into movie form. And then I'll just go here. And the next sequel is The Golden City of the Scorching Sun. That is season 2. If I call it season 3, that is possible, because I feel like the movie was season 2. So I may end up accidentally calling it Season 3, I don't know. And then there's this side story, Marluke's daily life. Definitely ignore that. I'll try and get into that later, about what's wrong with that. So, one of the great things about this anime, well, I'll get into that later. First, animation and music are good. Animation, there's a few times where it does this artistic style of, I don't want to say bad animation, but like purposely drawing outside of the lines or something. That's the best way I know how to describe it. If I can randomly find a clip of it, I'll show it, but I wasn't expecting to do this review, so I didn't grab clips while I was watching it. So I'll figure out what clips to use later. But like 2 or 3 times it'll do this weird animation thing, which is fine. I don't see the point of it, but it doesn't really hurt the series at all. And otherwise the animation is very smooth and on point. Music is great. There are times it reminds me of certain video games. Sometimes it reminds me of Ender Lilies. Sometimes it reminds me of The Crystal Project. And sometimes Shadow of the Colossus. And sometimes it's just its own thing, and hopefully you should be able to hear the music in the background. Now onto one of the greatest things about this anime is its duality of it, which another YouTuber has gone into a little more detail on the duality of it, which I cannot go into that much detail, but I felt this most strongly during the first season, where it felt like a Studio Ghibli anime, but with some more adult themes along the way, or I knew the adult themes were coming. It gets progressively, I guess, harder to watch, depending on how squeamish you are.
Please, cut it off.
But at the same time, it never loses that childlike optimism. Like Riko here. She goes through some stuff that, for a 12-year-old girl that she is, some of the things she goes through should leave her in the fetal position as a traumatized child. But instead of that, she cries about it and then moves on and is optimistic again. And I think that's actually a really good thing. Because you cannot drink lemonade without sugar. You cannot have an anime that's just all tragedy, all downer. And I wouldn't call this anime itself a tragedy. It has a lot of tragedy in it, but I would say it's a hopeful tragedy. A lot of bad stuff happens, but Riko and all the other characters can still stay happy in spite of moments of sadness. Now, I said it gets worse as it progresses, it gets more adult. There are more adult themes. Like, for the first season, I would be okay, if I had a child, I would be okay with them watching it at pretty much whatever age. Some people might disagree with that, based on some later scenes.
Cut it off.
But it's not really until the movie where I personally would say, no, you need to be a teenager to watch this. And I am not going to spoil anything, especially from the movie and second season. Maybe I'll spoil some stuff in the first season, but absolutely not the movie or second season. Those should just be experienced. Okay, I think I need to move on to this, just to keep myself on track. There is virtually no sexuality, right off the bat. All the characters, well, not all the characters, but the main characters are all like 12. And aside from the gore and brutality, it's written for a 12-year-old audience. There's no language to speak of that I can remember. I am going off memory, but as far as I remember, there's no language problems. No profanity at all. It's very clean in that regard. And I say no sexuality, but it doesn't... But the anime still knows what sex is. Obviously, when I mean there's no sexuality, I mean it's not playing for the audience in any way to get the audience aroused. It does tend to make fun of the fact that boys like girls. That's how I'll put it. Usually by making fun of Greg's erections.
I'll be okay. The hot water just stings a bit. Huh? Reg? What's up with your penis?
Nudity. There is no nudity. If I go back here, because I saw this while I was scrolling, this is about as close as you get to nudity. I mean, technically, Rico does end up getting naked a few times, but you never see anything. Like I said, it's very clean in that regard. That does remind me of something else I was going to mention, which I don't know if I'll find a picture, but another new anime that recently came out was Delicious in Dungeon. I tried watching that and it was boring. I never got past the first episode. Not saying anything bad about it, just that I didn't care for it. But this is the much better version of Delicious in Dungeon. There's quite a few times where trying to decide what animal to eat and how to cook it is a relevant issue. Oh, here's a good picture, I think. Yeah. Yeah, don't watch Delicious in Dungeon, just watch Made in Abyss. It's way better. Anyway, back to the list. Homosexuality, I put jokingly, but it really isn't even that, technically. In those side stories that I told you not to watch, it does do jokingly homosexuality because of the next part, feminine men, masculine women. That, there is one character who fits that trait. This character, Malik, but, this picture is obviously from a video game. It is, so don't think that, this is the animation from the anime. This is just video game anime. But this is a boy. And if the anime did not tell you directly that it's a boy, you would never know. And the side story is all about him. And in fact, the only reason I know that, I wouldn't have watched the side story even. But it was actually at the end of the movie, they included 2 of the side stories, which were Marluke's daily life. And in the first one, he meets up with one of Rico's orphanage classmates, and it's, if you didn't know he was a boy, it would look very normal and safe of a boy having a crush on a girl. But instead, for those of us who know that Marluke is a boy, it's sort of like an inside joke, which never gets resolved because the boy never finds out that Marluke is a boy, and they just go their separate ways. But yeah, that's one of the big reasons why I say just skip the side story, don't bother with it. The other reason is it doesn't provide anything of substance. Like, the second side story, which was on the movie, kind of had substance. It provided some backstory to Marluke, but it wasn't really important, wasn't necessary. But back to this. So that's why I highlighted jokingly, but there is others which are, I don't have a category for this, because it's not explicit. There are 2 relationships which are, what's the word? Suspect. There is the white whistle known as the Unmovable. I forget her actual name, but her title is the Unmovable. And she knew Rico's mother, Liza the Annihilator. I should get a picture. In fact, she knew Liza as a child. She was not a child, the Unmovable. So it's easy to see them as having a mother-daughter relationship. Until the Unmovable says one thing, in a soliloquy, that she was annoyed that Liza found a husband.
I'd like you to meet Torka from my squad. We just got married!
That raised some red flags, but nothing ever came of it. It never got more explicit than that. And the white whistles are generally, kind of psychotic, so who knows? The other one is Nanachi and, her best friend from childhood. This picture is obviously not from the anime, but it was the closest I could find. So not even accurate in this portrayal, but it's close enough. But anyway, as Nanachi flashes back to her, she refers to her as her treasure. It's pretty implicit. It's not explicit, so you could just see them as really good friends. But you could also let your imagination run away with you and think that if they were not 12, it probably would have been explicit. But that's it for homosexuality and transsexualism. Not much else there besides what I already mentioned. It's not anything to worry about. I would say the presence of Marluke would be the worst part, but he's only there for a few episodes, then they move on and keep descending. Violence, yes, there's violence. Reg has to defend Rico from all the dangers of the abyss. It's mostly about survival. Most of the time, they're fighting monsters, not people. The movie is the biggest exception to this, but it's definitely not without merit. Brutality, of course, nobody's safe. I mean, technically, the main characters are safe, but in some other ways, they're really not. Like, they'll survive, but in what condition will they be surviving? Which brings us to physical gore. Pretty much all of it. I don't think there's actual decapitation, but it can get pretty gruesome. For one reason, they try to put Rico through all of the abyss curses that they can. Anything that they can put her through and let her survive, they will do. So she gets the headaches, the nausea, the vomiting, the hallucinations, bleeding from every orifice. Anything she can survive and still be Rico, they will do to her. And let's be fair, we want to see it just to know that that the stories of the curse are not exaggerated. So we need somebody to experience them, and Red can't because he's a robot, so he's immune. Although in spite of him being a robot, he still has human anatomy and feelings. But then we come to psychological war, and that is the biggest, if you're going to call these red flags, that's the biggest red flag of the anime, is the psychological war. Especially in the movie. I can't tell you what happens, but it involves a briefcase. That's about as specific as I can get without giving spoilers. And then the second season starts out a little even more adult. Let me see if I can find a picture. Alright, well, I couldn't find the picture I was looking for, and I don't want to try and get more specific, because I don't want the FBI to bust down my door. So this will have to be as close as I get. There is a scene where this little girl is held down, and it's pretty obvious to any adults what's going on there. But there's not a lot of motion in the scene. So as far as kids are concerned, not that I'm recommending you show this to kids, because good luck explaining it, but they might ask, why is that man holding that girl down? You could say, so he can burn her with the red-hot iron. But, like I said, good luck explaining that. It's just not for kids. And the odd thing about that, which I'm only seeing here in this picture, is where did he burn her? It went through the point of showing him take this red-hot iron to her, but didn't actually show where he placed it. And now I'm seeing that it might have been right here. But I bring this up because I never really noticed her burn scar in any of her other scenes. I mean, I didn't even really notice it there until I started making this video. So for a while, it just seems like a useless backstory. Like, this tragedy she went through as a child didn't seem to play any part. Until later, and I can't tell you how it plays a part because of spoilers, but just know it does play a part, even though you probably never notice the actual scar from the red hot iron. And of course it never explains why he was scarring her, because he was just a flashback character. His motivations were just not important to the story. What was important about him is the effect he had on her. And there are some other adult themes that go into the second season. There's a really good revenge story, which again won't go into. There's hardly anything I can say about the second season without spoiling some part of the main plot. There is a secret to how the Golden City of the Scorching Sun was formed, and you're just going to have to discover that on your own. I will not go into it. But as the character said, it is a gruesome beginning. Now, on to Isaiah 5:20. Good as bad, bad as good, good as bad. I don't know. I don't think it does that. But I will say, if I haven't already said it, there are no real villains, mostly. In the movie, there obviously is Bertrand, I think his name is. He is definitely a villain, but at the same time, I don't want to say sympathetic villain. He's a complete psychopath with just no love in him. But what is the word I want to use? Not sympathetic or empathetic, but like you could feel sorry for him because he's just so far gone mentally that it's hard to hate him, even though he's done probably the most vile thing that anyone has done in the anime. And then season 2, is even less villainry. And even that is hard to talk about without spoiling it, because everybody has a reason. That obviously one person is in it for revenge, and there's a good reason that she would want revenge. And then on the other side, the people she wants revenge on just did what they had to survive. And it's understandable. So I wouldn't say either side really has a villain, because their motivations are at least understandable. And I'm sure some arguments could be made about some deeper motive that we're not really shown with one character in particular. But he was like the complete opposite of Bertrand, and you actually could feel sympathy for him. And is that everything? I'm currently giving Made in Abyss 4 stars, 4.5. I can't wait for season 3 to come out. I really hope it does come out. It's one of those animes where it doesn't come out too often. It takes its sweet time to actually release, so we have to wait and see. Until it finishes, I can't give it 5 stars. But if it concludes as well as it began, then I would give it 5 stars. Watching this anime will take some recovery time, as some of those tragedies can hit hard. But if you can get yourself to make it through that tragedy, it is well worth the watch. But I would not recommend it for anyone less than a teenager. Alright, that's it for this review. Whoops, I'm back, because apparently I forgot a few things. I'm not even bothering with the VTube because I'm too lazy to get that set up. I just want to get this all out of the way quick. First, I forgot to mention that the anime constantly mentions the word irredeemable. It's like a catchphrase that everybody uses. I'm sure there is something to be made of that. Like Bondrude in the movie, he does some pretty seemingly irredeemable things, but also he does have some redeeming qualities. Like, he praises the kids when they manage to one-up him. So I'm sure there's something there that somebody could mention about the word irredeemable and its effect on the story. Like, I'm sure there's something there about redemption.
Sorry, I apologize. Even now, I still cannot remember. Irredeemable.
What's that mean, Susu?
But I'm not the guy to go that deep. Next is a birthday curse, which I'm not surprised I forgot about. It barely gets mentioned, but apparently there's some sort of curse that happens to people on the surface who live around the abyss, and it happens to just some people where they die on their birthday. And so far it has not been explained, and I just don't see the point in it. Hopefully that'll become more relevant in future seasons. And there was something else. I'm sure there was something else, but I cannot for the life of me remember what it was. Something I had forgotten and wanted to say again, but then I forgot it again. But last thing I'll mention is this. I saw this video earlier, and this thumbnail just seems stupid to me. The writer's barely disguised fetish. What fetish could they possibly be talking about? I do not know. Like I've said, it is not a sexualized anime. The only thing I could think they're talking about is maybe how Reg likes fluffiness, or maybe it's something to do with the fact that they're all 12 years old or thereabouts. But it's not sexualized, so I just don't see it. I'm gonna actually watch this video and I'll get back to you real quick. Okay, that was both better and worse than I thought it was gonna be. Better in the fact that he wasn't saying anything bad about the season. He was praising it most of the time. Did I say that was good or bad? I don't remember what I said anymore. Anyway, but it's bad because he doesn't know what a fetish is sometimes. He's projecting. He is clearly projecting his own fetishes onto it, because he's fetishizing some things that are just not fetishes. Now, there are some things he brings up that could be considered fetishes, but I wouldn't say that the author had those fetishes. It was more like the people involved had those fetishes. Specifically, some of the hollows who value certain things, which all goes along with the story, which, by the way, don't actually watch his video unless you've seen Season 2, because he will spoil everything. And it's funny, with all his fetishizing of things that clearly were not fetishes, he somehow ignores the fact that Reg is a furry, or likes furries.
Seems Reg doesn't discriminate when it comes to fluffiness. It certainly looks that way, doesn't it?
Somehow he missed that fetish, which is an actual fetish, but again, not something I would accuse the author of having. Now, one point he brings up is how often Rico goes to the bathroom, but again, really not seeing that as a quote-unquote barely disguised fetish. It's more like an easy way to insert comedy, some light comedic moments. Now, one part I can agree with him on, which has nothing to do with his bad take on fetishes, is his take on Nanachi and how she was, how her story went in the second season. I do have to agree with him on that point. Glad I didn't stop recording. I went to comment on his video, and then I remembered a part. There is one part that he might have made a very good point on the fetishes, but it was only in Japanese, in subtitles. So I actually have to take his word for it. It definitely was not in the dub. You would not have noticed it if you watched the dub. Well, I spent paused for way too long. I have no idea what I said last. Just try and end the video again right there. See you next time.